We'll close the door. Monsieur and Evansville Court are all forgers, militaires, bas société des 40 hommes et filles de base in good standing, has given you or your representative the proper password and exhibit the membership card for the current year.
Officer Chef Gar, all present are qualified Barges militaries.
This being true, I will now proceed to open the promenade of Voltaire Locale 471 in due form. All present will conduct themselves in such a manner as to reflect credit upon themselves and upon the society. Monsieur Conseil Barger, you will retire, obtain the flag of our country, and escort to the place of honor at the right of the chef de gare.
Monsieur Chef de Gar, all compass voyagers wish stand and prepare to foreign the flag, to which we owe our allegiance, and for which we have demonstrated our willingness to make the supreme sacrifice.
Monsieur Conductor, you will cause the voyagers to come to the salute, or remain in that position till after the flag of our country shall be given the place of honor in this Voltaire.
Barges, rendezvous, Monsieur Chef de Gar de la Point, admit the compass voyager. Voyagers, right hand salute.
The flag of our country is in its place in honor, and the voyagers are at the salute. You will now join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Being honored by the presence of that flag, we acknowledge the great republic pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, and under which we were privileged to serve in the great wars for the preservation of justice, freedom, and democracy. We pledge anew our devotion to that flag and to the government it represents. May the ties of commandership which bond us together during these wars be ever strengthened, and let us hasten to each other's aid at every opportunity. The armoire will invoke divine blessing.
Let us pray. God our Father, Commander of the universe, everlasting Prince of Peace, in all humility we invoke thy blessing upon our efforts to exalt the name of these United States of America through our devotion and service. May we glorify the accomplishments of La Santé and thus justify our heritage as servicemen in times of peace as well as war. Sanctify our comradeship in terms of devotion and mutual helpfulness in the name of justice, freedom, and democracy. All this to thy glory. Amen.
Amen.
I now pronounce the promenade open for such business as come before it. But at this time, we will not have any business. We will do away with our business. And Dr. Mark Brown has graciously will be putting on a little talk about 48 for us. So, Dr. Browning.
Okay. We're going to need to turn your chairs around because of lighting. Just take your time, turn your chairs around. waking up tonight, postal weights with about 4 hours in the morning came here. Postal weights we'll get to in just a moment. What we're going to talk about is the 40 and 8, and we're going to talk about World War I. We cannot talk about the 40 and 8 without talking about World War I. We'll talk a little bit about World War I, and that'll segue into the 40 and 8. If you look at the top there, there's a symbol, what 48 means, and we will get into the details of that. It means 40 soldiers or 8 horses in a rail car, and we'll show you examples of that. If you look at World War I, the Industrial Revolution happened about 1790 to 1820, and that's what made World War I different than any of our previous wars. We started, even though it was 100 years later we started using machinery. This is the machinery that was made at different places in the world. Germans no longer using horses by 1915. They started using tanks, and it changed how war occurred from that time on. Liberty Bell you can't see there, but that happened in 1915. The Liberty Bell was taken from Philadelphia all the way to San Francisco and back, covered up about close to 6 months' time, and hit 275 cities. It was trying by President Wilson to get people behind Americanism. Lusitania had just sunk, and this put some anti-German fervor in our souls at that time. And that bell, they rang it in Philadelphia. They also had the telephone in Philadelphia hooked up to the telephone in San Francisco. And there were 130 telephone poles connecting, 130,000 telephone poles connecting them. And that bell was heard across the country, the first time that it was transcontinental. So they had candlesticks of political leaders, 100 in Philadelphia and 200 out west. They were worried about that bell cracking, and that was the Pennsylvania line, and they put extra shocks, and that went all the way around the country. You were not allowed to touch the bell unless you were blind or a child. They thought it was going to crack, and there was lots of political problems trying to leave Philadelphia. American Indians touched the bell, other dignitaries could touch the bell. If you look at the bell, that was used in a lot of our war bonds in 1970. If you look at those colors, similar types of colors were used in World War II. But those are the sailors that are trying to get some war bonds for the war in 1970. If you look, this is the trail of that train. It started there in Philadelphia. The red trail went north, all the way north, all the way to San Francisco, then went back all the way to Philadelphia. 275 different cities, 1/4 of our population. Close to 30 million people saw this bell. So then what happened? This is why we're here at the 48. World War I happened. This is only the 4th time that our nation signed a war document to go to war. War of 1812, the Mexican War, and then the War of 1898, the Spanish-American War. And this was the 4th time that Congress signed. This building is a Coliseum, and it's in memory of 2 wars. It's in memory, it was built in 1917. This is 100 years ago. This was commemorated. It was finally built, was about 1916. Commemorated this month in 1917. And this is dedicated to the Civil War warriors and the War of 1898, the Spanish-American. This is what happened in World War I. This changed how our civilization was. It changed civil rights, women's suffrage, military traditions and protocol. I just said we got rid of horses. We started using tanks. We started having airplanes at that time. The ships changed tremendously. Technology with guns, machine guns, medicine. I will go over just a little bit of medicine, how medicine was such a problem in this trench warfare. And soldier benefits. The American Legion, which we evolved from, American Legion was created in 1919. This organization was created in 1920 and helped with a lot of soldier benefits, veterans organizations as well. This is what a 48 train looks like. It's half the size of an American boxcar. Could hold 40 men. Wasn't the most comfortable. Would take them from the cities to the front lines. Now that's at half the size of a car. Narrow gauge. If you look at the tracks there, you can barely see it. There's only 4 wheels there. American trains have a little bit more wheels on the bottom of them. Transported men, and you put men in there, or I'll show you a later picture, you put 8 horses in there. And then they wouldn't clean it out too much between times, so it wasn't the most pleasant. So this segregation was still a problem, but civil rights became more of an issue. That's our doughboy hat. We have one of those in our possession. But the American soldier, 2,100,000 went over to Europe during that time. 4 million soldiers were involved in World War I. World War II, we had between 11 and 15 million. Airplanes, at first in 1914, they just flew by each other and said hello. Pretty soon they said, we're going to take a gun and shoot. Now all of a sudden, this is Eddie Rickenbacker. He won the Indianapolis 500. He also drove a car that the postal weights a car like that, a 12-cylinder. He was a man of speed, and he was president of Eastern Airlines at one time. But he was an American ace. These are other men that are soldiers that helped sacrifice and possibly sacrifice their health and lives during the time. This is trench warfare. It was a very unique war, very difficult. Not a lot of movement across France, but I'm not going to go into great details, but it was a trench warfare. Influenza, which we haven't talked about much in the past, but influenza was a major problem. Health can be a major problem. Influenza fostered in these camps. Up to 26% of these soldiers could get influenza, where the normal population was 5%, because the normal population wasn't confined to camps. We only lost 100,000 troops or so in World War I. We lost 30,000 influenza before they ever got over there. If you look at death statistics in Evansville, 1918 is the highest death statistic you can find in Evansville at any time. It's because of that influenza. It hit close to 5% of the population. Many, many deaths. Other diseases in previous wars, we conquered, so we thought we'd conquer until we found this influenza virus. With typhus, with Napoleon, and typhoid in the Spanish-American War. Our troops were vaccinated against those, as well as smallpox, so we thought we were ahead. But this virus was a terrible virus. Hit the whole world at that time, not just our people. This was a surprising virus. Usually viruses, influenza viruses, hit older people and younger people. This one hit these teenagers, and knocked a lot of them off. Very difficult. This building is commemorated right at the time, 100 years ago tomorrow. 100 years ago in 2 weeks or so. 100 years ago tomorrow, World War I started in the United States. And what happened, we dedicated this building, soldiers and sailors, Civil War and Spanish War. And this is a neoclassical architecture for one of the prettiest buildings in Evansville. Chopin was the architect, and he was architect for several other places in Evansville. Now, one famous person is James Gresham. There is his house is in Garvin Park. But he was the first American by many criteria. There were 3 people killed in our first battle, and some people say the other 2 men were the first killed. But James Bethel Gresham died on 11/3/17. That was the first battle. Now look, our war that was 6 months before we really went to battle. And that's how most wars are. You got to get all your stuff together before you get over there. That was the first of our Americans that died. And they buried him there, and they brought his body out of the dirt, and brought him over here, and put him in state in this building. 10,000 people viewed that, according to newspaper statistics. 10,000 people. If a mayor died, you wouldn't have 10,000. So that's probably one of the biggest funerals that we've ever had. After they left here, they went to his house for one. He's buried in Locust Hill Cemetery. Now, the other thing, I'm just summarizing, we talk about the Liberty Bell. It got patriotism. They used it in a lot of symbolism. I'll give you a slide at the very end. The World War I Museum is in Kansas City. And I'll show you a picture of it. It's a very beautiful museum, and they're remodeling it. It has more World War I artifacts than any museum in the world. James Gresham, I say 20,000 passing, but it was about 10,000 by a newspaper article that I found recently. If I'll show you there too, this is what our building is, and we're in this side of the building. Over here, we're right over here. This is the building that the 48 meets sometimes. And this over there is the GAR. If you look at these chairs, this is GR, Grand Army of the Republic. Okay, there were 490,000 people that were veterans. They joined, these were Union soldiers that joined the Grand Army of the Republic. They're like veterans, VFW. They're like American Navy, they're like the 40 and 80. That type of thing. And that room's dedicated, lots of good records of there. Every big general and admiral's on the wall over there in the Civil War. This stone is about a block away. It's on the south west corner You see the top of the courthouse there, but this is in dedication of those 104 soldiers lost from Vandenberg County. Gresham is one of them, and this is what the statue looks like. Now we have one closer to you here, and that's World War II warriors, and that's only about right across the street. There's about 360 names there from World War II. My uncle's in there, and I had relatives in World War I, but nobody on that plaque. That's Gresham himself. That's his house over by Garden Park. Now, we do have the postal whites here that I just called in. We got all of them 4 hours ago, and they're so nice to come here. And after we're done, I'll let you look at the books. They couldn't bring the car today, but they're Charles, which is Charles, your dad.
Your dad.
Your dad. Yeah. World War II air mechanic. Went over to Fairfield, Illinois, found this plane, and I'm going to let Chuck talk a minute when I get done here. But he took only 6 hours, 6 years to fix this car. This is General Blackjack Pershing's car in Evansville, Indiana. So those are our 2 most famous things. Gresham, first soldier killed in World War I, and we have General Pershing's car here in our Evansville, right there, that man. So, and Eddie Wickenbacher drove that type of car. That's what the car looks like, and they put it all together. 12 cylinders, pretty much of a powerhouse, or Eddie Rickenbacker wouldn't want to drive it. That's what it looks like. It has just it opens up one, they'll show you, but there's one back door, so the driver has to get through sort of the back seat, push a couple seats down, and get over in his seat. But he's usually an Army guy, got paid $21 a month, so they made him move all around there.
That's taken on the other side of the building, too.
Huh?
That picture's taken on the other side of the building.
Oh, right there, yes. Yes, look at that. So look at that. You're right. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Background. I didn't notice that. That's a Packard, real famous car in that period of time. There's 2-door, all the different criteria for it. I have a handout if anybody wants this. I've made 15 handouts. I'll hand out every one of these slides if anybody wants these. Now, this is the symbol as a retired medical or retired military. These people get together. There's a psychologist from USI that talked at the museum here recently. That it was a war museum about a year ago. He talked about military people after we get out of the military. It becomes a family, and these are all their family. Because when I go to war and I have a lot of bad things I see, my fellow warriors understand that. But my mother doesn't understand. My sister doesn't understand. My wife doesn't understand. My fellow warriors. So these groups have come about from that. The very top one is the VFW. There's 1.2 million. Our base here, Post 1114, is the biggest in the United States. So we have the biggest 114.
Third biggest now.
Third biggest. Okay, it used to be the biggest for years. Okay, the third biggest. American Legion, 2.4 million. We have many American Legions around here. And this is where that started in 1919, and we evolved from the American Legion. 48 members down a little bit. Most of them were from World War I, but we brought a lot of that history back. And then I just put the Grand Army of the Republic up there because Grand Army of the Republic is, what this other group's about, and it was one of the first things where veterans got together. I just put up there Flanders Field. If you go to any Memorial Day service, they recite the poem, Flanders Field. Yeah. He was a doctor in 1915, and he was from Canada, and his best friend was killed. And he talks about poppies, and this is what it looks like. And he talks about the birds flying above, and now his friend is down below because he was killed in this field. And it's a famous poem. Veterans Day, 11/11/11, 11th day, 11th hour, 11th day, 11th month, 1918, to end the war of all wars. All wars, 11th.
So at 5 o'clock in the morning out at Elbert, they do the guns.
They shoot that every year. Breaks everybody's windows used to. This is just a statistic. You don't need all that, but you look at how many living veterans we have of the war, 16 million in the United States, and living veterans in the United States. That's close to about 8% of your population, 42 million over a period of time. So there's a lot of interest in veterans. And if you just look at battle deaths, the non-theater battles are fairly common. This is revolutionary. I just want to go down to the battles. Well, we'll talk about World War I only today. But battle non-theater, look at that, more non-theater. I said 30,000 deaths from influenza and disease more than battle war. This is James Grantham. You go out to Locust Hill, that's his tombstone there. And 48, now that's what we're here about. So I tell you a little bit about World War I, because this is what we evolved from. It was established in 1920. At that time, it was evolution out of the American Legion, and it's a fun and honor society, so we have a good time together. But it's named after when they had the side of those boxcars, they had the number 48. They didn't want any more men or horses in there or be too crowded. This is what their symbol is. It's 48. And veterans, any veteran now is allowed to get in the organization. It used to be you had to be a member of the American Legion. Any veteran can get in our group. This is what it looked like. That's a more realistic picture of that 48. That's the boxcar. You look at those wheels, much different than ours today, about half the size of a boxcar. And there's all the horses in there. They can fit 8 horses in there. They're getting them in there. And horses were important in World War II, World War I, but started to lose some of their importance during that time. Lots of charitable programs. There's lots of things that the 48 does. Child welfare program. Diphtheria was a big problem during that time, even in the 20s. So they helped a national effort. And children that need money, they still have trust for that. 48 here in Evansville helps with Ivy Tech. We've sponsored a nursing scholarship in the past. They've dropped the sponsored nursing scholarship for years, and they will continue that. We're 30 million from the countrywide. Now remember, Carville, what's the name? That leprosy was a big problem early in the century. Not that it's a problem anymore, but they knew that was a problem at that time, and they helped out. These are things they also offer wheelchairs at the veterans hospitals, Americanism, all kinds of things, flags and Boys and Girls Civics Club. They give money to all those organizations and finance earlier use. Now also they have parades, they have hobo clowns, and meet at either post. Right now we're meeting at post 265. Used to meet in here a lot, but meet more post 265, or if we had a chateau, but we don't own a chateau right now. So these are things you can do to help out World War I things. There's a genealogy project. I've written it down there. You can search that on the internet. You can also help rescue or restore World War II memorials, and that's 100 cities. You can just search that. Poppy Seed program involved in National Memorial. And also what I want us to do here, local memorials, and they've created a new museum out by the airport called the Evansville Wartime Museum. And we've got many members here that if you have something you want to give or contribute, those are mostly World War II symbols there, but all wars want to be represented. So any type of artifacts, lots of volunteer time is being given out there. Just want to show you the symbolism. A lot of what happened in World War I is how we use the same symbols in World War II. Look at that, that's the same guy. That's a World War I, and here he is in World War II. Didn't change, look, his hat changed a little bit, his face didn't change much. About the same guy. This is the big museum out in Kansas City in memory of World War I. So if you ever get out to Kansas City, that is, they've just remodeling it, and it's going to be a fantastic museum. One of the members of the museum here has just visited. It's a phenomenal tribute to World War I. This guy was 48. You've heard of that guy. So this is just an outline of 48. We'd like any of you to tell your friends. We'd like you to be members here. We're trying to help stimulate things about World War I and what the 48, and that's what the 48 is about. And it's a group of individuals. We now have women. We have a woman leader right now. So thank you for your time.